The 2025 college football season is 200 days away. Maybe Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks should tank a few games here and look at the big picture. I'll explain. Locked on Big Ten starts right now.
You are Locked on Big Ten, your daily podcast on the Big Ten Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked on Big Ten. I'm Craig Sheeman, 40 years as a sports talk show host and play-by-play announcer. And I want to thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Hit that free subscribe button down below while you're watching. And today, we're talking about the Ducks. Maybe they're going to tank for a title. I'll explain all this. Plus, Tom Izzo goes for the record. And are we in for an IU coaching stunner? We'll let you know. Plus, our Tuesday tweets, those are always fun. Hang around for that. But first, Dan Lanning and the Oregon Ducks, they were the cream of the crop this year in their first Big Ten season. They were undefeated. They were exciting to watch. They won a Big Ten championship. They got the number one seed in the playoffs. They were punished for it, but they got the number one seed in the playoffs. And just like that, though, because they're punished for it, their season was over right when that postseason was starting to get exciting. Unless the college football playoff committee changes how they seed the playoffs, the Ducks might want to consider losing a game or two in 2025 and then make their playoff run. It's called the Ohio State method, the Ohio State model. The Big Ten's fourth place team won the national championship. Buckeyes had 2 losses. And of course, Oregon had none through the Big Ten championship game. So the first loss for the Buckeyes, of course, came at Autzen Stadium against the Ducks. And had there been 2 more seconds on the clock, or had Buckeyes quarterback Will Howard actually done a better job of managing the clock on the game's last play, there's a good chance that the Buckeyes would have won that game. Oregon would have suffered a loss there. And maybe the Buckeyes would have played that extra Big Ten championship game, and the Ducks would have had that week off to prepare for an easier playoff path with a lower seed. Or spitballing here, maybe the Buckeyes and the Ducks would have met in the Big Ten championship game and avoided an early meeting in the playoffs when the Ducks ran into a buzzsaw in Ohio State. It makes your head hurt to rethink all of it. It wasn't that long ago, but back where I come from, the best team is supposed to have an easier path regarding seeding for a tournament or a playoff run that's about to take place. Call me crazy. That's just how we've always done it. Clearly, that did not happen for the Oregon Ducks. Instead, they earned that extra bye week. They beat by beating Penn State in the Big Ten championship game. And then the Ohio State Buckeyes got a week off a week earlier, which gave them time to shake off that massive disappointment in the Michigan loss. They regrouped, and to their credit, they came out blazing against Tennessee and beat a Vols team that didn't have a chance, didn't know what hit them. It was quite remarkable. Now, you might be saying, hey, Craig, wait a minute. What's the difference? Both Ohio State and Oregon, they got a week off. They were just different weeks. Ohio State's was the first week of December, while Oregon played the Big Ten championship game. Then Oregon got the next week off while Ohio State destroyed Tennessee. They both got a week off. What's the big deal? All right. At face value, it's a fair question. But by the time that Oregon played Ohio State in the playoffs, the Buckeyes had an entire playoff game under their belt. They were full speed ahead. They had momentum. They were good to go. They were in midseason form. The Ducks had to start a cold engine back up again from scratch against a red-hot Ohio State team that was already rolling. Oregon had not played in 25 days. That's hard to get started over 3 weeks. Come on. I'm not making excuses. It's just what happened. I'm just saying that had the Ducks opened up with a Tennessee or an SMU, Boise, maybe Indiana, after only a 2-week gap between games, if they were still rusty, they could have afforded a sleepy quarter or a half to chisel off some of that rust. Then they could have found their way to win because they were the better opponent, and then hit all cylinders for the semifinals. That's how it's supposed to work. for a good team getting into the playoffs and getting seeded properly. We're supposed to reward good teams for their season. But again, that's not what happened to the Oregon Ducks. So again, this is not excuse making. This is just setting the table. But I will point out that all 4 teams that got that bye in the playoffs, they all got bounced in the first week. So you can't go 3.5 weeks in between games in college or pro, to be honest with you. It was just too long of a layoff for them. Now, let's take this thing a step further as we look toward 2025, because that's going to be here before you know it. If things don't change with these seedings in these college football playoffs, maybe teams like Oregon need to take a different look at this, take a different approach, if you will. Now, you and I both know Dan Lanning and the Ducks, they're going to try and win every single game. It's their job. It's their competitiveness. That's what they're going to do. They would never tank a game or 2 on purpose. This exercise here today is just a guide for Ducks fans. All right. If the Ducks lose a game or 2 in 2025, it's not the end of the world. It's not the end of the world. Instead of 12-0 in the regular season or 13-0 with a Big Ten title, we all know that a 10-2 team from the Big Ten is a lock to make the playoffs and an easier seeding schedule. So looking ahead to 2025, I mean, there may be some hiccups. I don't know that Oregon's going to go undefeated again. Got a pretty tough game against Penn State at Penn State in September. Last time I looked at that schedule. Maybe a tough, close game against Indiana at Autzen Stadium in October. Anything can happen at Iowa in November, especially if it's a night game. I'm just saying, it's not the end of the world if they get tripped up once or twice in games like that. So don't take it too hard. You'll always have that 2024 Big Ten title. That banner's going up at Autzen Stadium. It's going to be there forever. It's going to commemorate your first season in the Big Ten where you just came in and you owned it. Nobody's ever going to take that away from you. Check that off the box. Done. It was one of the most awesome stories in the Big Ten. It was one of the most awesome stories in college football this year. The Oregon Ducks moving into a new home, the Big Ten, and dominating it. But moving forward, you got to ask yourself, do you want another Big Ten title? You want to go back-to-back Big Ten titles? Or do you want to hang a national championship banner next to that Big Ten banner? Sure, on a perfect season, you could check all the boxes. Win the Big Ten title, back-to-back years, win the Natty. But even Ohio State didn't get to check that box this year. They won a national championship in a year when they didn't even win the Big Ten. Heck, they didn't even beat their arch rival, Michigan. It was not a perfect season, but they're still national champions. I personally think it would be great, and I root for Oregon for this reason, if nothing else. I think it would be great if the Big Ten could move forward and post their 3rd straight national champion and have it be 3 different schools. Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon, maybe. I think that's cool. Let the SEC choke on that. Or maybe the College Football Committee will get its act together and reward perfect teams like Oregon with better draws in 2025. We'll see. Hey, as long as we're talking about the Oregon Ducks, let me drop this note from this week. Their co-offensive coordinator and wide receivers coach, Junior Adams, he's leaving, and he's going to be the Dallas Cowboys wide receiver coach. So he's going to go from coaching that great group of wide receivers, Tez Johnson and company at Oregon. Now he's going to go handle CeeDee Lamb and the Dallas Cowboys. Anyway, Oregon fan, would love to hear from you on all of this. Hit us up with the comments. Would love that. And all of you, if you don't mind hitting that subscribe button and follow Locked On Big Ten for free, wherever you get your podcasts, subscribe. And that way you get the latest episode of this podcast as soon as it becomes available each and every day. And if it's not too much to ask, if you could also share, like, and follow, that would be wonderful. And don't forget our website, talkbig10.com, number 10, talkbig10.com. All of our podcasts go there chronologically, and we group them by school. This will be under Oregon, obviously. And there's always a link there where you can get your Oregon Ducks merchandise right there. Some school spirit, shirts, hats, T-shirts, all that stuff right there. We'll love it if you check that out as well. All right. Got some Big Ten news. There's a growing list of people speculating as to who's going to be the next head basketball coach at Indiana. We'll talk about that. List is getting big. And Tom Izzo goes for the all-time Big Ten wins record tonight as well. We'll have all of that. Plus, we always love it, Tuesday tweets. That's all coming up in just a minute right here on Locked On Big Ten. Wayfair. They got cool stuff at where you can get anything, and it's cool at Wayfair. You know, the holiday hustle's over with, so we're into the year, and maybe you're wanting to get ready for spring, some spring cleaning, make the house look a little better. Always find some decluttering or that perfect piece of furniture or accent. Make that perfect space good to go. You do it with Wayfair. Again, it helps you, whether you're tidying things up, just making an area look better, make you feel better by having a particular area in your home looking better. Wayfair has everything that you need, all within your budget. I know my wife and I have used it many, many times. Currently looking for furniture for, with the huge selection they have. Favorite little knickknack for outside, whatever you need, Wayfair has it. Absolutely everything. And their site is easy to navigate, and the free and hassle-free delivery, even for the larger items. It's spectacular. There's something for every style in every home, no matter your space or budget. And it just makes it easy to tackle your to-do list and your goals around your house, making it look just the way you want with your decor style. Give your home the refresh that it needs with Wayfair. Head to wayfair.com right now. That's Wayfair, WAYFAIR.com. Wayfair, every style, every home. Thanks for making Locked On Big Ten your first listen each and every day. Always appreciate you guys out here. Hey, meanwhile, check us out. Hit that subscribe button and let other people check us out by share and following and like Locked On Big Ten, your team every day. And our website, talkbig10.com as well. There's a growing list of coaching candidates that they're forming. It's all part of speculation here as to who will be the next head basketball coach at Indiana. We're going to look at that speculative list in just a moment. Mike Woodson, of course, of the university announced on Friday that Woodson would not be back for next season as the Hoosiers head coach. The Hoosiers have been struggling since Big Ten play started. But you just can't fire Woodson. I mean, he's given too much to the program. He's a legacy there. He played for legendary coach Bob Knight from 1976 to 1980. His playing career, in which he overcame major back surgery to return to the floor, perfectly sandwiched in between the Hoosiers' perfect 1976 championship season and Knight's second championship led by Isaiah Thomas in 1981. So he was in the middle 4 years where they didn't win. I mean, the class before him won, the class after him did. So he sorely wanted to come in and win a natty as the school's coach, but just wasn't meant to be. But given his history, his departure needed to be handled with a soft landing and kid gloves, if you will. And I think thus far it has been. Tough boat for both sides, but that's the way it's going down. So who will replace him? Will athletic director Scott Dolson find a new up-and-comer? Will he go with a proven winner that thinks, Indiana's one of those career destination jobs, maybe that last rung in the ladder? Will it be somebody that has ties to Bob Knight? I mean, Indiana does like its own. So it's one of the reasons Woodson was hired, as a matter of fact. Look, this is a great job, and it always has been. And their name, image, and likeness collective is strong for basketball there. It's strong for football now, too. And as a matter of fact, this current roster was cobbled together through the transfer portal and strong name, image, and likeness offers and good players. And it's failed to gel as a team. Plus, it has no outside shooting. So let's look at some of the outside list of names that people in Bloomington and beyond are talking about. There's a lot of them. Again, this is going to be a good job. Scott Dolson's not going to have any hard time finding people. Let's start with the first one on the list. Dusty May at Michigan. We just went through this a couple days ago because Michigan came into Indiana on the heels of the announcement that Mike Woodson would not be back. A lot of people wanted Dusty May, and he's an IU grad. He was a team manager under Bob Knight, just like AD Scott Dolson, but under a different time period. He got a school like FAU to a Final Four so he can coach with limited resources. And he's turned Michigan around in 1 year. They're looking pretty good. But he was asked about it. It was awkward. He said, look, man, I'm happy at Michigan. He acknowledges he got his start at Indiana, but he's happy at Michigan. That's about all he said. He didn't say no. I read an article that somebody said Matt Painter, Purdue. Like, I got a lot of respect for Matt Painter. Heck of a basketball coach. He grew up an Indiana fan. He wanted to play for Indiana. They didn't offer him a scholarship. He went to Purdue. Now he's a coach. Check the temperature out because they'll say, hell, it's frozen over. If Matt Painter leaves Purdue to go to Indiana, I mean, it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. There's always the Brad Stevens crowd, former Butler coach, now executive with the Celtics. This will probably be the first call that Scott Dolson makes just to check in. He reportedly turned down 7 years, $70 million from Indiana before they hired Woodson. They'll call him again. But Stevens never coached in the name, image, and likeness era or in revenue share and transfer portal at Butler. But he's been running an NBA team for years, so those are transferable skills. Scott Drew, Baylor. He's won 482 games. Literally rebuilt Baylor from the ground up. This program was dead. They had some problems, but serious problems on and off the court. Built them up from the ground up and won the national championship in 2021. He is an Indiana native. He coached at Valpo. He went to Butler. But, he took a job that was a bad job, and he's made it a great job, and maybe he wants to stay there. He's turned down other big schools. Last year, turned down Louisville and Kentucky. Maybe he wants to stay. But again, maybe Indiana has a special place in his heart. I don't know. Shaka Smart is another one at Marquette. Now, I don't know if Indiana will go to the Marquette well twice. They got Tom Crean. He came from Marquette. Shaka Smart had that great run at VCU all those years ago. He's got big school experience at Texas. He's at Marquette. He's a good coach. Maybe he'll be in the mix. Mick Cronin at UCLA, 497 wins. He has won at least 27 games in 5 of his last 8 seasons. He's a Cincinnati native, not too far away from Bloomington. Good defensive coach. Maybe put a little asterisk. I don't know how happy he is at UCLA. I don't know. I know he wasn't happy with his team a couple of weeks ago, called him soft. But he's a tough coach, good defensive coach. He would fit in. In Bloomington. Here's a big one. Bruce Pearl at the number 1 ranked Auburn Tigers. The only reason his name keeps coming up, and it's on every list all the time with Indiana. Once upon a time in an interview, he said Indiana was his dream job. He thought that was the real deal. But now he's got Auburn as the number 1 team in the country. They've been good for a while. He's turned that job into a great job. And SEC basketball, man, pretty darn good these days. So I don't know, unless he's just got some bucket list where he's like, yeah, someday I'd like to do that. But right now, I don't see him leaving Auburn under any circumstance. They're rolling there. Micah Shrewsbury. By the way, I'll probably make a call though, right? Bruce Pearl, you want to come to Indiana? Micah Shrewsbury, Notre Dame coach. Had a nice turnaround at Penn State and then left. Used that to jump up to Notre Dame. He's an Indiana native, Big Ten experience. That might be a guy they call. Chris Beard at Ole Miss. You talk about people with ties to Bob Knight. He coached with him at Texas Tech. Now, he had some legal issues, which were dismissed. But I don't know if that's going to cost him from, getting a job like an Indiana job. I'm sure he'd be interested in it, though. Here's one I'm putting on the list that nobody seems to be talking about. Chris Collins at Northwestern. Big Ten coach, good coach. I think he's taken Northwestern about as high as he could. Last year, they had a good year. You can only go so far at Northwestern, I think, in basketball. I think Chris Collins is a good coach. I think I'd give him a call. Nate Oates at Alabama is very much like Bruce Pearl. He's taken a job that, I don't know, nobody really wanted. It was a job. at a football school. And now Auburn and Alabama are the best two teams in college basketball right now. Basketball. Couple other on the short list here that I think Indiana should or will consider. Fred Hoiberg at Nebraska. Again, I don't know how far he could go with Nebraska. He's a good coach because his kids play tough. That'll fit in well at Indiana. I'm sure Rick Pitino from St. John's will call Scott Dolson. I don't know that that's the answer. I don't. Baggage, lots up and down, but from the past, look, great coach. I think his time to be at a big time program has passed, but you never say never. So I don't know. I think Rick will call. I don't think IU will call Rick. There's always Jay Wright, but he's retired. He's probably the best retired coach out there. I got one more for you. Steve Alford at Nevada. Now, he had a hot and cold relationship with Bob Knight. I think he's had a hot and cold relationship with IU. And it seems like this once inevitable move with a former player at IU who won the national championship with Knight in 1987. It feels like that he's missed that window to come back to Indiana. There were times he was passed over in the past, and I think he just got upset about it and moved on with his life. But one thing to remember here, and this is why I would not rule Steve Alford out yet at Indiana. When he won the national championship with Bob Knight in 87, current athletic director Scott Dolson was a team manager, just like we talked about Dusty May. He was the team manager on that team as a student. So a classmate of Alford's, went through all that together with Alford. And I guarantee you a phone call will be made if it hasn't been already. So whatever happens beyond that, where Alford's interest is, and again, people love the Bob Knight connection. Where it goes after that, anybody's guess. Meanwhile, we got some hoops tonight. I want to tell you about around the Big Ten. Number 7, Purdue is at number 24, Michigan. Purdue 19-5. Michigan, like we said, Dusty May right there, 18-5. That's a 7 p.m. Eastern game on Peacock. Illinois is at 20, hosting UCLA. This is at Illinois, 8 p.m. Eastern on Peacock. UCLA, Mick Cronin, we just talked about him. They've won 7 in a row. Indiana is at Michigan State. Tom Izzo, 9 o'clock Peacock, 9 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Pacific. Tom Izzo tonight, if he wins this game, will pass Bob Knight for the most all-time Big Ten wins for the win total. So we'll see if he gets that. Penn State is at USC. That is a 9 o'clock game on the Big Ten Network. Northwestern is at Oregon. That is 11 o'clock Eastern, 8 o'clock Pacific on the Big Ten Network. Women are off until Wednesday night around the Big Ten. We love your comments, your theories on the next great coach to be the coach of the Indiana Hoosiers. If you want to jump in on that, we've got Tuesday tweets. That's coming up. We always love to do that. That's one of our features that we do every single Tuesday. So you can hit us up on Twitter at Talk Big Ten. And if I see something there, I'll pull it. I'll put it on the segment. We'll see if we did that for you here. That's coming up next right here on Locked On Big Ten. Time for Tuesday tweets on Locked On Big Ten. I'm going to put this on the screen. If you're audio only, no problem. I'll describe it in detail, and you can take a listen, and I'll let you know what's going on here. First of all, this is from at Big Ten Hockey, and it is the latest polls and the rankings from around the country. Michigan State hockey, number 2 in the land. Minnesota, number 4, and Ohio State, 8. So 3 in the top 10. Michigan's right there at 12, and Penn State at 18. So 5 top 25 teams in the Big Ten in hockey. Here is the women's basketball poll that is out from the Big Ten Network, or the Big Ten Conference. UCLA, number 1. Been that way for a while. USC, number 6. Ohio State, 9. Maryland, 17. And Michigan State coming in at number 22. And we do the same thing for the men's. Big Ten basketball putting this out. Purdue at number 7. Michigan State, 11. Wisconsin, 16th. Michigan, 20th. And Maryland rounding out the top 25. So there you go. All right, this is cool. This was one of my favorite moments from the Super Bowl on Sunday. This is from at Barstool Big Ten. It's Cooper DeJean and his pick 6 off of Patrick Mahomes to make it 17-0 Philadelphia in the Super Bowl. Cooper DeJean was phenomenal as a defensive back and punt returner for the Iowa Hawkeyes and Kirk Ferentz 2 seasons ago, their 10-win season where they got to the Big Ten championship game. Now, he was hurt at the very end of that year, missed out on the Big Ten championship game, broke his ankle or lower leg. But he's back, and, man, looking great. And that was cool. That was cool. A little Big Ten pride there. Meanwhile, this is also from at Big Ten Football. Congrats to the Big Ten Super Bowl champions. These are all Big Ten players on the Eagles. Saquon Barkley, Zach Bond, Sidney Brown, Paris Campbell, Cooper DeJean, as we mentioned, Johan Dotson, Nick Gates, Brandon Graham, Cam Jurgens, and Trevor Keegan. That's pretty good. Some Big Ten pride there on Super Sunday. Hey, I don't know if you saw this news come out on Monday. This is from at bunch_nuts. Jim Tressel has added to his resume. Here's a picture of Jim Tressel holding up the Crystal BCS champion trophy. National champion 2002, 6-time Big Ten champion, 9-1 versus Michigan, 4-time NCAA Division I AA champ as well, Youngstown State, and Lieutenant Governor of Ohio. Yeah, he's been named the Lieutenant Governor of Ohio. How about that? Meanwhile, more Ohio State news. This is from Pete Thamel, insider. It says sources: Ohio State set to promote Keenan Bailey to co-offensive coordinator. He'll remain tight ends coach and work with recently promoted offensive coordinator Brian Hartline and the new run game coordinator Tyler Bowen. Bailey has worked at Ohio State at various roles since 2016. There you go. And it's his picture walking, and got Brutus, the mascot, behind him, behind his right shoulder. Here's another one from Jim Tressel from ESPN. Former Ohio State coach Jim Tressel has been nominated by Ohio Governor Mike DeWine to be the state's next lieutenant governor. The nomination must be now approved by the Ohio Senate and House. All right. And here is that Big Ten Network. Tom Izzo, 1 win away. It says that Michigan State basketball plays Indiana tomorrow, which will be tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern on Peacock. And it shows big Bob Knight and Tom Izzo side by side with 353 Big Ten wins. These are Big Ten wins, not overall wins, Big Ten wins. Gene Cady at 265 and Matt Painter, 237. Here is from at Indiana football. Apparently, D'Angelo Pons voted as the best slot corner by EA Sports College. You know how they rank people, rank these things. There you go. Speaking of Indiana, this is from Respectable Adam. Pack the Rock, hashtag IU football, never daunted. It is a picture of Curt Cignetti when he was about, 8, 10 years old. And Curt Cignetti with the headphones on beating Purdue 66-0. He looked like a serious, confident, cocky kid, just like he is now as an adult and a successful football coach. Thought you'd enjoy that. Those are our Tuesday tweets. Again, hit me up on Twitter if you want me to put something on every Tuesday. I'll do it anytime. No problem whatsoever. There are many ways for you to interact with this podcast at Twitter, at Talk Big Ten, number 10. Our website, talkbig10.com. That's the number 10. And hit that subscribe button and follow this podcast right now on your favorite podcast app. You get the latest episode of Lockdown Big Ten as soon as it becomes available each and every day. Thanks for joining us. It was a fun one once again. Can't wait till we talk again tomorrow. I'm Craig Sheeman for Lockdown Big Ten.